If you're an IELTS student, you know that feeling, right? You work so hard, you've got great ideas, but your writing score just feels stuck. Well, today we're going to zero in on the number one reason why, the specific grammar that separates a band 5 from a band 6 and way, way higher.
I mean, if you've ever gotten your writing score back and just felt completely frustrated, you are not alone. So many students know their ideas are solid, but that grammar score just keeps holding them back. So let's fix that, starting right now with the biggest red flag that examiners see.
So what's the very first thing an examiner notices? Well, a lot of the time, it's what we call choppy writing. This is just a series of short, simple, kind of disconnected sentences. Now, they might be grammatically correct on their own, but when you string them all together like that, it signals a very limited grammatical range. And that is a huge red flag that keeps scores capped right around band 5.
Okay, so how do we fix that choppiness? We start with Level 1, Mastering Sentence Variety. This is the absolute foundation. I'm telling you, getting this right is the first and most critical step to show the examiner that you are ready for a much higher score.
You know, we all start with a simple sentence. It has one subject, one verb. Students study hard. It's clear, it's direct, and hey, it's perfectly correct. The problem is, if your entire essay is built out of just these, it creates that repetitive, choppy feel that instantly puts a ceiling on your score. Okay, next up, we level up to the compound sentence. This is where we connect two complete, equal ideas using one of those coordinating conjunctions. You probably know them as fanboys. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. For example, students study hard, but some still fail. This is already a huge step up because it shows you can connect related thoughts. And now, we get to the real key. This is what unlocks a higher score, the complex sentence. This is where you join a main, independent idea with a secondary, dependent one. Although students study hard, some still fail exams. Believe me, when an examiner sees you using these correctly and with confidence, they see someone with real grammatical range and sophistication.
Just look at the transformation here. It's night and day. On the left, we've got those two simple, choppy sentences. On the right, they're combined into one fluid, complex sentence using because. The meaning is exactly the same, but the delivery is so much more advanced. This right here is that leap in quality that examiners are trained to spot.
All right, so once you have a good foundation in sentence variety, it is time for Level 2, hunting down those super common errors. These are the little mistakes that just cost you easy points, so let's make sure they disappear from your writing for good.
First on the list, and this one is a big one, subject-verb agreement. This is probably the most frequent and most easily spotted error. A plural subject, like students, needs a plural verb, need. And check out this other one. One of the problems. The real subject there is one, which is singular, so the verb has to be is. You got to get this right every single time. Next up, let's talk about articles. A, an, and the. I know, this can be a huge challenge, especially if your first language doesn't really use them. Just remember, when you're talking generally, like education is important, you usually don't need an article. But when you're referring to a single, countable thing, you need one, as in a good education.
And oh, we cannot forget uncountable nouns. These are words you're going to use all the time in IELTS, like information, homework, advice, and research. They never, ever take an S and use them with much, not many. So just burn it into your memory. It's always much information and homework is. Never informations or homeworks are.
So now that we've stopped losing those easy points, we're playing defense, it's time for Level 3, Advanced Structures. This is where we shift from defense to offense. We're going to actively earn points by showing off our grammatical range and accuracy.
Conditional sentences. Oh, these are a fantastic tool for your Task 2 essays. You can use Type 1 to talk about real possibilities, to suggest practical solutions. If governments invest, society will benefit. And then you can shift gears and use Type 2 to discuss more hypothetical ideas. If class sizes were smaller, students would learn better. Using both in one essay, that shows some serious control.
In the passive voice, it's your best friend for creating that formal academic tone. Seriously, instead of saying something like, the government should implement solutions, try, solutions should be implemented. It just sounds more objective and scholarly because it shifts the focus to the action itself, which is perfect for IELTS writing. Okay, theory is great and all, but let's see how these 3 levels actually come together to totally transform a real piece of writing. Let's see it in action. Okay, so here's a little snippet from a pretty typical Band 5 essay. Just listen to the errors. Methods has, schooling are, children stays, they will missing. You can just hear those subject-verb agreement problems and that incorrectly formed conditional. These are the exact mistakes that are holding that score down.
And now, look at the difference. Wow, we've fixed the basic subject-verb agreement. Methods have and schooling is. But here's the magic trick. We've transformed that clunky conditional into a perfect type 2. If children stayed, they would miss. That single change just elevates the sophistication of the entire sentence.
Okay, that's a lot of information I know. So how do you actually put this all into practice? Let's distill everything we've covered into a super simple, clear action plan for you. All right, here are your do's. This is your new grammar checklist. First, focus on mixing your sentence types. Second, become obsessed with checking subject-verb agreement. Third, use that passive voice and conditionals strategically. And maybe the most important thing, always save a few minutes at the end to hunt for these very errors.
And just as important, here are your don'ts. Steer clear of writing only simple sentences, and don't forget your basic punctuation like commas. Stay away from those incorrect uncountables like informations. And here's a crucial one. Don't try to write these super long, complicated sentences that you can't control. Remember, clarity is always king.
Look, if you take only one thing away from this whole explainer, let it be this. Accuracy is more important than complexity. It is far better to write a clear, correct essay with a good mix of sentence types than it is to try and use really advanced structures and make a bunch of mistakes. Nail the fundamentals first. Seriously.
So I want to leave you with this question to really think about. Based on everything we've just covered, what is the single grammar error you know you make that you are going to focus on eliminating from your writing starting today? Pick one, master it, and I promise you are already on your way to a higher score.